Yanabhyabjam Kasangantanalam Lokashvastu Sutikadamadatus Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Yasyam Sham Sham Shaparatma Kilanam Poshta Vishnur Bhati Dugdabdishai Shoni Bharta Yatkala Sopyanantas Tam Shri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye Maya Yasrajatyaya Tasyavataramevayam Advaita Charya Ishvara Advaitam Harina Dvaitad Akcharya Bhakti Samshanad Bhaktavataram Eksamtam Advaita Charya Ashraye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvaswapadambo Jau Radha Madana Mohanao Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnakara Singhasanastao Srimad Radha Śrīla Govinda Deva Prishtali Bhisevyamanu Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamshi Vatatatatastita Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopīnātha Shriye Sunaha Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda 18 Thakur Godeyaki Karyachena Atmasad 18 Era Charan Vandon Tine Murnad Natara Arambek Mangala Charana Guru Kṛṣṇa Bhagavan Tinera Smarane Hoy Vigna Vinashana Apunyachni Hoyakshira Mainchita Purana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Page 206, please, in your hymnal. Because this is a place where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Śrīla Gadādhara Pandit would come and sit together during the day, and Gadādhara Pandit would read Bhagavatam to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose shedding of tears prevented him from doing much of anything, including puja. He would become soaked, or his copy of Srimad Bhagavatam also was not doing well because of the tears. In any case, one of the constant themes was Prahlāda Mahārāja. So it's a great opportunity for us, since we've worked on these prayers for a long time, for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadādhara Pandit, to recite the prayers of Prahlāda Mahārāja. Malini's into it. I don't know about everybody else. She's shaking her head, yes. Would you like to try? Yes. Okay. Do you know how to do? Who remembers the tune that we use? Yeah. Ashtau Shittaramekagra Manasa Susamahita Prema Gadgaraya Vacha 206. Yascha Hridayekshana Shri Paradu Vacha Pramadayasura. Wait, let's hear what you're doing.
Brahmadaya suragana munayota siddha satvaikatana gatayo vachasam pravahe Naraditum Purgunairadunapi Pipru
Kim Toshtamarati Same Hari Ugrajate Manya Janad Bijana Rupatapau Sachojas Teja Prabhava Balapaurisha Bhuti Yoga Naradanai Hibhavanti Parasya Pungso Bhaktya Tutosha Bhagavan Gajayu. That's not quite it, is it? It is? Is the tune we're doing now what we've usually been doing?
Not usually, but if this is easier for everybody, I can switch to that. But the tune we usually do is what I did for the first verse.
Do it again. Shiparadu Vacha
Brahmadaya Suragana Munayota Siddha Sattvaikatana Gatayo Vachasam Pravahai Naraditum Purgunair Adunapi Pipru Kim Toshtumarhati Same Harirugraja.
Maybe you did that too.
You did that in ISV once or twice, I think.
Once or twice. Let's do an easier tune everyone's used to, like the Brahma Samhita, because it fits the meter anyway, right? Shi Praduvacha Ashtau Sittarame Kagra Manasasu Samahita Prema Gadgadaya Vacha Tanya Saradayekshana. Now it's Shri Prahlāda Vacha Brahmadaya Sudaguna Munayota Siddha Sattvaikatana Katayo Sobratahe Naraditum Purukunaraduna Pipipru Kim Toshna Marhate Sume Haru Ugrajate Manye Dana Bijna Rupata Pausutaujas Teja Prabhava Balapaurisha Bhuti Yoga Naradanaya Hibhavanti Parasya Pungso Bhaktya Tutosha Bhagavan Gachayutapaya Hidvai Vishad Gunayutada Ravinda Nabha Vadada Vinda Vimukachvapacham Varishtam Manye Tadarpita Manovachane Hitarta Pranam Punati Sakulam Natu Buddhimana Naivatmana Prabodayam Nijalabha Purno Manam Janada Vidushat Karuno Vranite Yad Yajjano Bhagavati Hitamanam Tachchatmane Pratimukasya Yatamukashri Hasmad Ambigata Viklaka Ishvarasya Sarvatmana Mahigranami Yatamanisham Nicho Jayaguna Visarga Manu Pravishta Huyeta Yena Hipumana Nuvarnitena Sarvehyami Vidikarastava Satvadamno Ramadayo Vayamiveshana Chodvijanta Shemaya Bhutaya Utatma Sukhaya Chasya Vikriditam Bhagavato Ruchuravataraya Tadyachamanyam Asurashcha Hatasvadhyadya Modeta Sadurapi Vrishchika Sarpahatya Lokascha Nivritmita Pratiyanti Sarve Rupam Nashringa Vivayaya Janasmaranti Naham Haibhyab Tadahana Kasya Jivarka Netra Brukuti Rabasokratam Strat Antrasrata Shatata Keshada Shanku Karnam Nirada Bita Digibada Ribinda Kagrad Trastosmyaham Kripana Vatsala Dusahogra Samsara Chakra Kadanad Vasatam Pranita Kadgam Pragri Pritopavarga sharanam vayase kadanu. Yasmad priya priya viyoga samyoga janma. Shokagnina sakala yoni shuddhahyamana. Dukaushadam tadapi dukkhamatadhyaham. Bhumam brahmami vadame tavadasya yogam. Soham priyasya sudita paridevataya. Lila katastava nashingavarincha gita. Antyastirtam anugrinam kanavipramukto. Durgani te padayugalayaham sasanga. Halasyane hasharanam pitarao nasingha. Gadamudan mati majato now. Taptasya tap pratividirya ihanja sheshtas. Tavad bibotanubritam tvarupekshitanam. Yasmain yato yarhiyena cha yasya yasmad. Yasmayatada yutarasta paraparobha. Bhava karoti vikaroti bhavaksa bhava. Sanchoditastarakhilam bhavataksa-rupam. Mayam chatitarma bhayam baliya. Kalena chodita gunanumatena pumsa. Sando mayam yada jayarpita shodasharam. Samsara chakra twadanya. Be just tatma gunasadamna. Tavishidya visarga shakti. Chakre vrishishta majayeshvara shodashade. Nishpidyamanam upakarsha vibho prapannam. Istatayavjivivo kiladishnapanam. Ayushriyo vivava ichiti yanjanoyam. Ye smat pitu kupita hasa vrijimbritabru. Vispurjitena lilita satute nirasta. Stadinham srinutam ashu. Ya. Vibhavam indriyamavarinsha. Chami te vilulitan uruvikramena. Kalatmana panayamam nijabritya parshvam. Ukshashri shashriti sukha mriga trishni rupa. Vedam kalevaramashesha rujam viroha. Nirvidyate natutamo nakundashvan. Kama nalai adulavai shamayam durapai. Ishatamodi kesmin. Kata kure karukampa. Na brahmano natu bhavasya rama maya. Merpita shurasi padmakara prasada. Naisha paravaramatir bhavato nanusyaj. Jantorya tatma surido jagatastatapi. Samsevaya suratarori vate prasada. Sevanurupam mudayo naparavaratvam. Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe. Kama bikama manuya prapatam prasangad. Kritvat masad surashina bhagavan grihita. Soham katam nu visrijeta babritya sevam. Mat prana rakshana mananta paturavadascha. Manye swabritya rishivakyam vratam vidatum. Kadgam pragriya yadavochara sadviditsus. Twamishvaro madaparo vatukam harami. ekastvameva jagadetamamushya yatvam adyantayo pratagavasya simadyatascha Shrishva gunavyatikaram nijamaya yedam naneva tera vasitastadanu pravishta tam va idam sadasadvisha bhavamstatonyo maya yadatma parabudhiryam yaparta yad yasya janmanitanam stitir ikshanam cha Tadvaitadeva vasukala vadashtitarvo Nyasyedamatmani jagadvilayambu madhye Sheshetmana nijasukhanubhavo niriha Yogena militajgatmani pita nidras Turyestito natutamo nukanamscha yungshe Tasyaiva teva puridam nijakala shaktya sanchodita prakrititarmana atmagudam ambasyananta shayanad viramat samadher nabera budswakanikad patavan mahabjam tatsambhava kaviratonyada pashyamanas Tam bijamatmani tatam sabahirvachintya na vindadabda shatam apsuni majamano jaten kore katamoho palabeta bijam satwatma yonirati vismita ashritobjam kalena tivra tapasa parishudha bhava Tam atmanisha bhuvigannamivati shukshmam bhutendriyasha yamaye vitatam dadarsha evam sahasravadanangri shira kororu nasadya karna nayana bharana yudhahyam maya mayam sapriyatamam tanum Itam Nritirya Grishideva Jashavatarar Lokam Vibhavayasi Hamsi Jagat Pratipan Dharman Mahapurusha Pasi Yugana Vrittam Channakalo Yadabhavastri Yugota Satvam Naitan Manastava Vikunta Nata Sampriyate duritatushtam asadu tivram Kamaturam harshashoka bhayaishanartam Tasmin katam tavagatim vimrishami dina Jivaikato chuta vikarshati mavratripta Shishnonyatastvaruraram shravanam katashchet Granonyataschapalaдрikvachakarma shaktir Havyasa patnya iva gehapitim lunanti Evam sakarma patitam bhavavaitaranyam Anyonya janma maranashana pita bitam Pashyanjanam swapara vigraha vaira maitram Hanteti para charipi Prihimudhamadya Konyatra te kila goro bhagavam prayasa Uttarane sabhava sambhava lopaheto Mudeshu vai mahadanugraha arta bando Kim tena te priyajanan anusevatam na Naivodvijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyas Twadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitta Shocheta to vimukacheta se indriyarta Maya sukaya bharamudvahato vimudhan Rayena deva munayasva limtikama Maunam charanti vijanena pararta nishta Naitan vihaya kripanan vivamuksha eko Nanyam twadasya shararam brahmatonu pashye Yanmai tunadi grihamedi sukham hitucham Kanduyanena karayori vadukha dukham Tripyanti neha kripana bahuduka bhaja kanduti van manasijam vishaheta dhira mauna vrata shuta tapodhyayana swadharma vyakya raho japa samadare apavargya praya param purushate tvajitendriyanam Varta bhavantyutana vatra tutambikanam Rupe ime sarasita vaveda shrishte Bijankura vihana chanyada rupa kasya Yukta samakshamupayatre vachangshante tvam Yogena vanim vivadarushu nanyatasya Tvam vayuragniravanirviyadam mumatra Pranendriyanirudayam chidanugrahascha Sarvam tvameva saguno vigunascha bhuman Nanyad twadastya pimano vachasa niruktam Naite gunana gunino maharadayo ye Sarve mana prabhritaya sahadeva martya Adyantavanta urugaya vitanti hi tvam Evam vimrishya sudayo viramanti shabda Tatyerhatanma namastuti karma puja Karma smriti sharana yoshrava Praradam pranatam prito Yatamanyo Rabhashata Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Om. Just a brief comment on these prayers and why they were beloved of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadādhara Pandit. What to speak of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura, who recommended that his disciples read the section of Prahlāda Mahārāja 108 times and Dhruva Mahārāja 108 times. In the Prahlāda's prayers, there's the quality of utter dependence on the Lord's representative. As Prahlāda Mahārāja tells Lord Narasiṁhadeva that although you're here before me, my first duty is to serve my spiritual master. And he's the one whose external circumstance there may be. He was in a slightly abusive family. And nonetheless, even at the end, when Lord Narasiṁhadeva asked him what benediction he wants, he said, I don't want anything. And Lord Narasiṁhadeva said, no, I'm Bhagavan, I give, you take. And he said then, please save my father, that father who just abused him. And then he said, if you give me any benediction at all, I want that there be no material desires within the core of my heart. Such a simple but foundational prayer that if one has that request to the Lord, if one can even utter that request, one's on a level of, a foundational level of devotional service. And Dhruva Mahārāja, we can remember the ways that when he went for the forest, even though he had an ulterior motive to begin with, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradhi tivrina bhakti yogina yajeta purusham param. That's Shukadeva Goswami says, despite the fact that you may start with some ulterior motive, still go on and do devotional service. What's most notable about Dhruva Mahārāja was his determination, because even though he was tested by Narada Muni, who was his spiritual master, who said, no, you can work this out with a little social engineering. Just learn how to interact with people in the right way, and you'll be able to overcome this. And Dhruva Mahārāja said, thanks. He said, yeah, no. I'm going anyway. And somebody had that determination in his heart to achieve the supreme. It's just so helpful hearing about these two iconic figures in bhakti. And it's even more inspiring because of the fact that Caitanya Mahaprabhu authorized it and did it himself. What to speak of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. It's a way in which you always win with the basics. And if one maintains determination to overcome any obstacle, and also has a sincere prayer that I don't then tam satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddha yogam tam yena mam upayantite. That's, if you have that mood, or any mood that you want me, then I'll give you the intelligence how you can come to me. So this is a place where this yajna has been done many times by Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Gadādhara. Say something, whatever he wishes, hear it. Ṭoṭā-gopīnātha. Which way?
There is more shade
Right
that
here?
way. More
This way?
shade that way, and then just maybe easier for.
Let's move it over. Move the whole table. Put that here. Everyone okay? If you want, you can move up.
Yeah. I took a bath last week, don't be nervous. Gopyata kolpa briksham Gopalagadharatidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Chadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad-bhaktaya namo namaha Shriman Rasada Sadambi Vamsi Vatatatasthita Karshan Venu Swanar Gopir Gopīnātha Shri Estunaha. It's a little hard for me to speak. I feel kind of like a grade school student going before the SEAL Team 7 to give them instructions about exercise. It's a bit of a joke, but we're here to try to do some service. And just like you may have a famous Odissi dancer here in Orissa, a Disi Guru. And his son is 4 or 5 months old, learning to walk. But he's trying to imitate so many things. Actually, we're working on a book for many, many years about Ṭoṭā-gopīnātha. We've translated a couple of books, one from Odia and one from Bengali about Gopinath. There's so much to say here. I think a lot of you know something about the story here. I'll say a few things. Mostly I'd like to question why Gopinath is sitting down. Now some people say that Gadādhara Pandit, after Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu left, he aged very quickly. And he was no longer able to stand up high enough to put the mukut, the crown, on Gopinath's head. And so Gopinath sat down for him. Other persons say that it was Mamu Thakur, the maternal uncle of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was a disciple of Gadādhara Pandit and was doing the seva here at this place, who installed the deities of Revati, Viruni, and Balaram, and Shri Radha Madan Mohan, and Gaur Gadādhara, as well as Gopishwar Mahadev. The Shivlingas were coming in. Some say that Gopinath sat down for him. There's another local story that I'd like to share with you. And it kind of weaves together many different places, from Vrindavan to Kurukshetra to Bangladesh, and it ends in Jagannath Puri. So in the Bhagavatam, in the 32nd chapter, it's described that after the gopis danced with Krishna, Sahasra Yuga Pariyantam Maharyad Brahmano Vadu, for just one night. It was a night of Lord Brahma, quite a long period of time, which is equal to 100 yugas taken together. They became a little tired. So Krishna took them from Jala Krita Lila, took them in the water of the Jamuna, and they took bath there. And the Bhagavatam describes that Swa uttarai kucha kumkuma kantitayar akliplam asanam, that after they got out of the water, the gopis made an asan, a seat of love for Krishna. They made a pile of sand, and they put their uttariyas, their external cloths there, and they made a very beautiful seat for Krishna. And he sat down there like the moon surrounded by the stars, surrounded by the gopis. And therefore he's known as Gopinath. Now that same Krishna later left Vrindavan, and he went to Dwarka. On the chariot of Akrura, he turned and promised the gopis, he said, Ayashya, Ayashya, I'm going to return very soon. But then, for so many years, he didn't return. And he was in Dwarka. And Srila Sanatana Goswami and other acharyas describe that while in Dwarka, Krishna was feeling separation from the gopis, so much so that one morning, Rukmini and some of the other queens of Dwarka got together, and Rukmini was complaining. She said, I don't know what's going on with our husband. He becomes soaking wet with tears, and he's crying, Radhe, Radhe, Gopi, Gopi. Who is this Radha? Who is this Gopi? And so Satyabhama and Rukmini and a few others went to Krishna and said, what gives? Well, who is this personality? And Krishna then began to speak to them about Srimati Radharani, and they wanted to meet her. And Krishna said, it's not possible. She won't come here, and we can't go there. Why can't Krishna return to Vrindavan? Acharyas have described that no problem, he can go there, but so many demoniac kings like Sishupal and Dantavakra, knowing that Krishna is there, will then attack Vrindavan. Now you may say, what's the problem? Krishna will very easily defeat them. But that fighting and that battle kind of activity, that's not the business of Vrindavan. And so Krishna was thinking, I also have a desire to meet them. Simultaneously, Jiva Goswami says in his Gopal Champu that Nanda Maharaj called for an assembly in Vrindavan, and with all the wise persons there, he told them, what can we do? Somehow we have to meet Krishna. We can't live in separation from Krishna. And just at that moment, a messenger came. And he said, I've come here from Dwarka. And I have a letter for all of you from Krishna. And Krishna then, he told them that he actually sent 3 different letters. He sent one letter. I won't read these letters. Our time's a little short. He sent one letter to Nanda Maharaj and the General Bijbasis, and he said, just as you're feeling separation, but I have a solution. We can meet in the place known as Kurukshetra. And then he sent a second secret letter to the gopis, urging them to also come. Now, if you're thoughtful, you may realize there's a problem. Because the gopis are all married. And if they go there with their husbands to meet Krishna, it's not so romantic. Krishna sent a third letter to his friends, the cowherd boys. And he said, if you love me, you'll follow my instruction. You should stay behind and take care of the cows. They can't walk so far to Kurukshetra. And so simultaneously there were 2 groups going to Kurukshetra. One was coming from Dwarka. And in that group there were hundreds of war elephants and great chariots. And in the back of the chariots there were piles of gold and jewels, and the chariots were made out of silver and gold, and they had opulent silver and gold armor on. And for miles, the glare of the sun coming off of those jewels and things were blinding everyone. They were bringing those jewels and things to give away in charity at Kurukshetra. And it was like there's an earthquake was going. There's so many soldiers and so many horses and so many elephants. Meanwhile, there was another group coming from Vrindavan. And they put the bulls in front, Jiva Goswami says. Because those bulls at Vrindavan, they're stronger than the cows. Those bulls are Krishna's old friends. And by putting the bulls in front, the Brijbasis would be giving Krishna a subtle hint. Do you remember Vrindavan? Do you remember your friends? And they weren't going in great war chariots. Rather, they were going in simple wooden carts, and there was no gold and jewels on the back of the carts. Rather, there was gobar, cow dung. And there was milk products, dahi, yogurt, and different things. They were bringing the gobar because Krishna liked to eat things that were cooked over the cow dung of the Brijbasi cows. And they were bringing the milk products from those cows who offered it with great love and ecstasy for Krishna. And as they were going, the gopis of Vrindavan couldn't control themselves. They would begin running, and then suddenly they would fall to the ground, unconscious. And then when they would get to their feet, they would begin running again, and then suddenly they would stop, stunned in ecstasy. And this way they were making little by little progress. So meanwhile, Krishna was there in Vrindavan, and someone suddenly came to him and said, there's some people here from Vrindavan. When the Brijbasis arrived at Kurukshetra, they could immediately smell the fragrance of Krishna's body, and they all became ecstatic. So Krishna and Balaram slipped away from all their friends and relatives from Dwarka, and the first thing they did, they went to change their clothes. Sometimes they ask us to speak about Rath Yatra in the West, and sometimes we're speaking in front of a bunch of non-devotees, and I was trying, how do you speak about such a thing? So I just gave the essence. We tell them that this is a festival celebrating rescuing God from mechanical organized religion and bringing him to the village of our hearts. And so Krishna acknowledged that feeling, and he changed his clothes. And when he went to see the gopis, Jiva Goswami says he put Uddhava in front. Why did he put Uddhava in front? In the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Krishna says, Parokshavaram Rishaya Parokshamama Cha Priyam. That the rishis, they like to speak in Parokshavad. And he said, this Parokshavad is very dear to me. What is Parokshavad? Any married man understands what is Parokshavad. When you tell your wife who's been cooking all day for your romantic wedding anniversary that say, sweetheart, some of the boys want me to go play some basketball, shoot some hoops with them. Do you mind if I go with them instead? And then your wife says, fine, go right ahead. Now, a man might think she said, fine, go right ahead. But really, it's parokshavad. What she's really saying is, you're a jerk. And if you do that, when you come home, I'm not going to be here. So married men understand something about parokshavad. And parokshavad is very dear to Krishna. Why is he putting Uddhava in front? To give a message to the gopis. I didn't forget you. Remember him? I sent him with a message of love. And so many things happened there. There's many wonderful stories how Krishna met Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. I won't go there. But then Krishna sat down with the gopis. And there's only one verse that the gopis spoke to Krishna. It's in the 82nd chapter, the 10th canto. And you may question, why only one verse? They didn't have much to say to him. Ahustate nalina naba padada vindam yogeshvarai hridi vichincha magada bodhai sangsara kupa patitota danava geham jusam apimanashyudiyat sadanaha. The gopis offered prayers to Krishna. They said, our dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma comes from the lotus that comes out of your navel. And Yogeshvarai Hridivichincha Magada Bodhai, you're worshipped by the greatest of yogis and mystics. Please accept our obeisances. Who are we? Sangsara Kupa Patitot Tadanavalam. We're just housewives fallen in the dark well of household life. How can we understand you? So this verse is parokshavad. And in different literatures, our Goswamis have given, I know of at least 4 different meanings to this verse. It's also recited by Sri Caitanya Mahāprabhu at Rath Yatra. First of all, why only one verse? One commentary that we came across in the Bhagavatam explains that the gopis had so many things they said, but Sukadeva Goswami couldn't tolerate speaking it. It was so painful to his heart. So he only gave this one verse. And the verse is also parokshavad. It has another meaning. The gopis are saying, oh, please accept our obeisances, Krishna. You went to the big city and now you're a big man. You become the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our pranams to you. Do you still remember your father, your mother? And you sent that fellow, we see him in front of us, is Uddhava, and he came to us and spoke to us that we should do yoga and meditation. We can't do meditation. Sangsara kupa patitotara. We're just fallen housewives. We're not great yogis. To do yoga and meditation, you have to have a peaceful mind, and our mind is always disturbed because we can't stop thinking of you. So what kind of instruction did you give? And many things were spoken by Krishna to the gopis at that time. I'm reading a little bit from a book that we translated called Vrindavan Lilamrita by a devotee named Nandakishore Goswami about 250 years ago. He's in the line of Nityananda Prabhu, and he was residing at Nityananda Vat in Vrindavan. And he wrote a very wonderful book. Actually, it has some... Anyway, it's a long, long story. I won't go there. But he described that meeting. And he said that Krishna then began to pacify the gopis. And from Krishna's words, there's many things that we can learn. And he spoke to them in such a nice way. And then at that time, he says, Salunta vachane tabe kori sambasana Uttariya Vastra Dila Vasite Asana Bolo Hare Krishna. When Krishna met with the gopis there then, the gopis very quietly began to gather some of the sand and earth, and they made a little mound, and they began to take off their uttariyas, and they made a seat for Krishna. there at Kurukshetra. Krishna is speaking in Parokshava to the gopis by putting Uddhava in front. And the gopis are also speaking to him. And what are they saying? Do you remember that full moon night of the month of Chaitra when we were dancing the Ras Leela on the bank of the Jamuna? Have you forgotten that? And when Krishna heard their words, Krishna began to cry. And Srimati Radharani began to express her lament to Krishna. She said, you sent this Uddhava to us to speak us yoga, but it only hurt our hearts even more. Now you're a big king. We're just forest dwellers. What can we do? And then Krishna spoke to them in a very humble way. And for me, the gopis had experienced a kind of abuse, kind of relationship abuse, because Krishna promised him, Ayasya, I'm going to return, but he didn't return. He's breaking their hearts. And from the way he dealt with them, we can learn something about how to deal with persons with abuse. If you go on Facebook, you can see a lot of devotees who've been abused. And generally they're very angry kind of persons, because that's a symptom of someone who has PTSD or something. They've been through some trauma. They're hurt and they're angry with everyone else. They want to take that out. And Krishna shows us how to deal with that. And Krishna told them, he said that Suno Priyagana Ame Te Hoila Vachanate Toma Sabararini. I am in your debt. As he tells the gopis also in the 10th canto. It's a verse that I'm in debt to the gopis. He tells them that yapratiyatu sadhuna. Let your own behavior, sadhuna, be your reward. In other words, also, I have to become a sadhu to repay my debt to you. So Krishna told the gopis, I'm always in debt to you. He said, but you had it easy, I had it very difficult. You had each other to cry and speak about things. No one was there. I could try to speak to Balaram, but I can't talk to Balaram about you. And I can't speak to the queens about you. No one was there for me. I was by myself. I was suffering so much. And just as you were suffering in separation from me, I was suffering from you. I was very eager to return to Braj, but I couldn't do that. And then Krishna told them, Akritagya jana kabu smriti yogya nahi atta eva jai kahi jai mana deha tahe. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji was just speaking about the importance of Kritagya. Kritagya means gratitude, which is the basis of bhakti, the basis of all relationships. And Krishna told the gopis, Akritagya jana, kabu smriti yoga nahi. If someone's not grateful, you have no debt to them. That person doesn't deserve to be remembered. And by my behavior, I was ungrateful for all of you. So he said, Ata eva jekahi je mana dehat. You can leave. You can leave me if you want. I'll understand. And this is how also we should speak. Jiva Goswami speaks more about this in Paramatma Sandarbha. He says that one of the purposes of suffering is that you can understand the pain in someone else's heart. Because unless you suffer yourself, you can't understand their feelings. And he says for that reason, very cryptically, that Krishna has no mercy. Because mercy is something which comes when someone has empathy. Empathy comes when you've suffered the same thing. You understand that feeling. But Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha. He never has a bad day. He doesn't have a bad hair day. He doesn't have body odor or anything. He doesn't know what it means to suffer. But if we tell you that Krishna has no mercy, you'll feel very depressed. My Guru Maharaj once said that we say that hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu. Krishna is an ocean of mercy. You go to him and pray, my dear Krishna, you're the ocean of mercy. My Guru Maharaj said, Krishna, we tell you, that ocean is no longer with me. That ocean is with my devotees, who are Krishna Kripa Srimurti. Krishna's given his mercy through his devotees, and that's why the devotees suffer. Because by suffering they can understand the pain of someone else's heart. So Krishna acknowledged the feelings of the gopis, and when we deal with devotees who suffered problems and pains, we shouldn't be impersonal with them. Krishna could have just told them, I'm God, I'm always with you, I'm everywhere, don't be in Maya, you should have just chanted your japa, everything would have been fine. Krishna could have told them that, and it would have been Siddhantically correct. But he didn't do that. He understood their hearts. And he sympathized with them. And he said, if you don't want to be with me, I'll understand. This is how we should deal. Also with devotees and persons who suffered. We should understand their pain and not just tell them, Prabhu, you're just in Maya. Just chant Hare Krishna. Everything will be okay. Sometimes people don't need philosophy, but they need some feeling in the heart, along with philosophy. So later in Gaura Lila in Bangladesh, Mahāprabhu had a meeting which is described in the book Prema Vilas of Nityananda Das, and he met with Lokanath Goswami, and he was revealing his heart to Lokanath Goswami and telling him how I'm in debt to the gopis. This debt has come up again. I don't know how to repay that debt. So just as Radharani wears saffron color in separation from me, I'm also going to wear saffron color. I'm going to take sannyas to repay my debt to the gopis. And to repay that debt, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana. We should be one-pointed. Bahusaka yanantascha buddhiya vyavisayin. And those persons who are bahusaka, who are multi-branched, they can't advance properly. But in Navadvip, Mahaprabhu is Mahabahusaka. He's reciprocating with so many devotees. Why does he leave Navadvip to come to Puri? Because he has to become Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha. He has to become one-pointed to focus on the love of Srimati Radharani. He has to become a sadhu, yapratiyatu sadhana, to repay his debt to Radharani. So he leaves his family, he leaves his mother, his loving mother, he leaves his wife and all the devotees, and he comes to Jagannath Puri. And he comes here to the temple of Ṭoṭā-gopīnātha. And this is the temple where they say that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into the deity when he finished his manifest pastimes. There was one old sadhu here who lived here for over 40 years. Somehow he liked me very much. His name was Hari Krishna Das Babaji. When we would come, he'd start jumping up and down, Madhavananda, Madhavananda. And I once asked him, Maharaj, what's with Lalita and Radharani here? What's the strange thing? Lalita looks like she's playing a flute, and she's standing like Krishna. And why are they black? And he explained to me very beautifully, these are the deities of the Ras Lila. And that in separation from Krishna, Radharani and Lalita became blackish. And they began acting out the pastimes of Krishna. And Lalita was playing a flute like she's Krishna. And Radharani began playing the veena, as in the Ras Lila. And so here, this is Gopinath. This is the beginning. It all began at Vamsivat, on the bank of the Jamuna in Vrindavan, where the gopis, they made a seat for Krishna. And some Vaishnavas say that this Gopinath, he's that original deity of Lord Brahma. Alola Chandrika Lasadvanamal Yavang Siratnangadam Pranayakeli Kala Vilasam. That he has a moon locket around his neck. And if you come early in the morning, you can see Gopinath has a moon locket. And that same Gopinath Krishna, who sat down at Vamsivat, surrounded by the gopis, the same Gopinath Krishna who sat down at Kurukshetra, surrounded by the gopis on their seat, is now sitting down in Jagannath Puri, on this wonderful seat known as Chatak Parvat, with the gopis surrounding him. So this is a little something about this place. Should we stop there? Do we ask for questions or reflections?
Sure.
Okay, does anybody have any? It was very quick. I'm sorry, a little too long even. Anybody reflections? You know, it's one thing I've learned from you, Prabhuji. I do this thing now wherever I go. I always ask devotees for reflections because Paraspara Anukatanam Bhavanam Bhagavad is 11.330. Devotees should learn how to associate by having Paraspara back and forth discussions. You have something? Is there another mic?
Say it and then we'll repeat it. She's first.
It was just a question.
Okay. I'll repeat it.
Whether when Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu entered into Gopinath, were the Sakis, were they already there? Or did they come after Radharani?
According to the local tradition, Radharani and Lalita were also already there. And these deities, according to the local tradition, the temple here, these deities were established by Lord Brahma. These are his personal deities when he came to install the deities of Jagannātha in Satya Yuga. According to several local books, it's a long story. When Mahāprabhu entered into the deity of Gopinath, he left behind a flower garland, or some say a piece of cloth. And you may notice in front of Revati, Varuni, and Balaram, there's a kind of marble shrine. They put that garland in a samadhi there. That's a Pushpa Samadhi of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And our teacher, a few years ago, Fakir Mahaprabhu, he had them made some shrine for that. Anybody else with anything? Mataji, something? There's a microphone for you.
Hare Krishna. From Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we have read so many things towards how to run our life. But as we are the human beings, sometimes we feel we surrender everything to Lord Krishna, but sometimes the struggles of the running world disturb our mind. We think Krishna is everything, but he will solve all the problems. But I do not know why we are mentally disturbed when we face the struggle. But at the same time, we surrender to Krishna. I think perhaps it's the exam for us or our result of our previous birth, or it is the, I think, I may think sometimes, is it the duty of the God to give so many hurdles to our life and test us to reach the lotus feet of the Almighty? It distracts my mind so many times. So I want to ask my question from my point of view that, please tell me how I am not never be mentally disturbed as I surrender to Lord Krishna. How? Please.
That's why you should come on this yatra. I think Vaisheshika, would you like to say something about this?
Well, let's hear yours first.
Sorry?
Would you like to say something first?
Okay. When we're coming on this yatra, we all have problems. Some of us have debts in America. Some of us have a boss who's a rotten person. Some of us have problems in our married life. Everybody has problems in this world. But when we come here for the few days that we're here, we leave those problems behind. And don't worry, they'll still be there when you go back. We're attached to them sometimes. And we come here and we have a respite and for a real vacation, in the sense that we come and we're able to do kirtan with devotees. And we understand then what is real problems, what is real solutions. There's a beautiful verse, Vipado naiva vipada. That vipada is not really a problem. Vipado naiva vipada. Sampado naiva sampada. And sampada, wealth or good fortune, is not really good fortune. Vipado naiva vipada, sampado naiva sampada, vipad vismaranam vishnu, sampadnarayana smiti. The only real problem in this world is when we forget the Lord. And the only happiness in this world is when we remember the Lord. So in association with devotees on a yatra like this, it's a journey of the heart. Not just a journey of the body or a journey of the wallet, or as Prabhu was saying last night, a journey of National Geographic or something. And those problems that we have, in a paradoxical way, they become our assets. Because for a woman who has difficulty in childbirth, something so extraordinarily painful I can't even understand, If she goes through that, then she can understand that pain, and she can speak to other ladies who've gone through that. She can empathize with them, and they can really appreciate her comments. So those problems in our life are actually assets, both for our own personal bhakti, because when we continue in spite of those problems, then we get blessings, we get bhakti, and they're also our asset when we speak to others. Maybe people would like to say something more.
I don't think, is it? Thank you for such a heartfelt, relatable question. I like how you were so vulnerable to bring up, and it was demonstrative in the way that you brought up the question of how deeply you're considering it and how it's visceral. We're so vulnerable as human beings because we're exposed to the world from all sides. Even our pores expose us to the environment. What to speak of psychologically, somebody can say something to us that will disturb our minds or make us, for years, sometimes a teacher will say something to someone that you're not so smart. I mean, I don't know what teacher would do that, but it's happened before. And we become greatly disturbed. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us such reassuring advice about what our purpose is in life and how to adjust our attitude so that we don't become overly affected. We'll always be affected, as Madhavananda Prabhu said, but there's a way in which we can fortify ourselves by hearing Krishna's instructions. And therefore, our acharyas have recommended that we read Bhagavad Gita every day. Prabhupada, for instance, said that each one of his disciples should read at least one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And I can relate to how you feel because I feel like that too. And I think that my solace is if I sit down with Bhagavad Gita and I hear directly from Krishna what he says about the world, for instance. As soon as I read in the second chapter of the Gita about how upset Arjuna is with his circumstances, and he's a great warrior. And then Krishna gives this foundational advice about how you're not your body, Arjuna, and all the changes that are going on in your body and in your life situation are will-o'-the-wisp. A will-o'-the-wisp, if you look it up in the dictionary, is a phosphorus light that comes from organic material burning. And sometimes it leads travelers on the wrong path because in the dark they would see this spontaneous combustion from some organic material that would start burning, and they would think that there was a house there or something, and then they would end up in a marsh. Everything in the material world, Krishna says categorically, is like that. But we have a higher purpose. And when I have that sense that you're expressing right now, which is pretty much constant, and I read the Bhagavad Gita, then I find my bearings again. My recommendation is if you start a regimen where you read Bhagavad Gita every day, a set amount. For instance, if you chant one chapter of Bhagavad Gita, read it, read the purports, and so forth, it's amazing how suddenly you feel fortified and you feel that you can, I'll speak for myself, so I'm amazed at how suddenly whatever seemed so dire in my life and the ways in which I feel oppressed or abused, they suddenly seem insignificant to me. And it's in that bubble that we can survive in this lifetime, the vulnerability that we have as human beings who are susceptible to everything. And that's the recommendation that the great teachers give too, is take shelter of Bhagavad Gita. It's Krishna speaking directly to us to buoy our enthusiasm to march forward despite the problems. In fact, that's what a lot of the Bhagavad Gita is about, how there are going to be disturbances, but you can remain equal or equipoised. It's one of his main messages. So that's what I do. And if you'd like to try it, we have a club you can join. It's called CHAD, Chapter a Day. And when you join the club, you vow that every day you'll read at least one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Would you like to join? Say yes. She said yes. Haribol. Hare Krishna. It's I always appreciate being living in a temple or being next to a temple for this very reason, that when you hear the arti go on, you know the Lord's being worshipped. It's pretty rare in this world. Most of the sound vibration is based on people going to work. For instance, near our house there's a train. Personally, I feel the whistle's too loud. They could tone it down. What to speak of the traffic noise? People are obligated to go to work and so forth. But in the transcendental environments, you hear the conch and the bells and so forth. And it reorients us towards the purpose in life. And that's why we come on the yatra, is to remember that life is simple. Happiness is simple. It just means to always think of Krishna. And it's the real solution. It's the only solution, to remember Krishna. And that there's an already chalked out process, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, to hear, chant, and then remember Krishna. And that brings us to another opportunity that we have this morning. But before I speak about that, how was the journey from our old haunt, the Gajapati Hotel, which we're still amazed is standing, because most of it we observed was being eaten by termites. But how was your experience of starting from there and having the Harinam and coming up the road with the Harinam party, and also watching everyone distribute books and having the opportunity to distribute books yourself? Would you like to share an experience? Hladini Prema?
Hare Krishna. So it happened right outside our hotel.
It happened right outside the hotel.
So I tried 2-3 auto rickshaw people and the people who were
the
selling
auto
conch.
rickshaw people and the hotel people.
And the people who were selling conch.
And the conch people.
Yeah. So one of them told me that I can't read. So I tried to pursue, but he was like, no, I don't want. I said, okay, fine. Then I was speaking to someone else, and then he came up to me and he said, oh, can I have it now? So I said, okay. But then I gave him Bhagavad Gita in Hindi, and then I asked him, what made you change? He then pointed to some other guy, and he said, that's my brother-in-law, and your Maharaj just gave it to him, and he convinced me to come and take a book. So I was like...
When we were in Vrindavan at the Bhaktivedanta ashram during the Kartik, and from time to time we'd have a table outside and we were distributing books on the breaks. And one morning when I was out distributing books, I talked to a rather reluctant rickshaw driver. He finally purchased the book because he couldn't tolerate the mountain pose. And so he finally capitulated and purchased the book. And then he became a champion of the cause. Even though he was very reluctant, now he became the biggest advocate. And whenever we approach another rickshaw walla, he would come over and insist that they give something. And it reminded me of how infectious the activity of distributing books is, because people sense, especially here in the Dham, they know you're doing the right thing, and it's a sacred activity, and it's hard for them to resist it, especially when they see other people taking it, and it spreads like that. Thank you. Yes. Give her the extra boost microphone. I don't know, could you find out?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. When I was observing you doing mountain pose, made me reflect on Iyengar's style of yoga, because him and his students, they would teach like 1, 2, or 3 poses for the entire class. And so mountain pose could be a pose that he would teach from feet all the way up, and I'm like, Guru Dev's got it down.
Well, I see it as yukta vairagya, because in and of itself, the mountain pose that I've learned, although it is good for posture and for centering oneself, but when it's used in the service of the Sankirtan movement, then it becomes transcendental. And the credit goes back to Sriman Iyengar Prabhu for giving us that. Everybody gets some credit when you do Sankirtan and you use things in service. I'm going to do a time check-in to see what timings there are at Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta's temple across the street. Does anybody have any insider information on that? It looks like Sudhira Prabhu might have something. Let's see what he has to say.
We can go now.
I know we can go now, but I'm just asking what the insider information is. What's happening over there?
Darshan's finished, I think.
Okay. Once we're in such a nice place, it's hard to leave, isn't it? And I want to thank Madhavananda Prabhu for bringing us into a kind of samadhi, and also evoking that sense of separation, which is the emblematic of Jagannath Puri in general, or in specific, I should say. And thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And as a balance to our visit here, we're going to go across the street. We're going to go straight out the front door. We'll take a sharp right. We'll go down the pathway. I noticed this morning or yesterday that the gate seems to be locked on the left side. And therefore we have to go straight out the gate, take a right all the way to the street, and take another left, and then another left. Straight, right, left, left. Then we're going to go inside the Gaudiya Mat, and we'll park our shoes at the bottom and walk up to the top, because there we'll find Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura's Bhajan Kutir, and it's a very special place because it's from there he wrote a letter to his disciple Abhay Charanaravinda, our founder Acharya, about his life's mission, reaffirmed rather, because he had told him before. And also, if we get an opportunity over there to sit in an environment where we can speak, it would be wonderful to have some talks about Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura, what he means to us, what effect he's had on our lives, and so forth. Does that sound like an okay plan? So we'll adjust when we get there to find the ways and means, because we don't have any insider information as far as I know. We'll just go there and see what we can do. But that's the general idea. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Shri Radha Lalita Ṭoṭā-gopīnātha, Shri Radha Madan Mohan is on the right. and Ramuna Balaram, if you so desire, and Varuni, if you so desire, please instill in us a sense of urgency for increasing our practice of devotional service, and please also give us compassion in our hearts to distribute it to as many people as possible in the world. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadurvascha kripasundabhyeva cha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anantakoti vaishnaviki jai. So now we'll strike up the kirtan instantaneously, and we'll all meet down in the courtyard, and then we can go up together to the top of the sand dune. Hare Krishna.